The oxygen was running out. Chen watched the red numbers blinking on her helmet's display. 43 minutes. That was all that remained between her and the eternal vacuum that had swallowed 90% of the galaxy. Around her, the wreckage of orbital station Prometheus VII floated like bleached bones of some cosmic leviathan. Twisted metal fragments, frozen bodies of colleagues she knew by name, pieces of technology that had once been the pinnacle of human engineering. All of it now nothing more than space debris drifting in the void. Kael Okafor was floating near what had been the xenobiology laboratory, his gloved hands holding something that glowed with a pale blue light, a Zephyrian memory crystal. Intact. The Zephyrians had been extinct for 3 years when the silent machines arrived at the Kepler 438 system. Nobody knew exactly what they were or where they came from. They appeared without warning, transformed entire planets into crystallized deserts, and vanished, leaving only silence. But then a cold voice echoed through the communicator. Dr. Elias. Vorn emerged from a destroyed section of the station, his lean figure moving with mechanical precision through the debris. In his hands, a plasma weapon glowed with contained energy. 20 minutes earlier, Maya had considered Elias Vorn one of humanity's last great intellects. The man had dedicated his life to studying alien civilizations, deciphering dead languages, and unraveling the mysteries of extinct cultures. When the silent machines began their genocidal campaign across the galaxy, it was Vorn who led the scientific efforts to understand them. Now he was pointing a weapon at the only other two known humans in the universe. Vorn explained his terrible discovery. The silent machines were not simply blind exterminators. They were guardians created by an ancient alliance of species, programmed to identify and eliminate any civilization that exhibited the same destructive traits as the architects, a race of pure energy beings that had dominated the galaxy 50,000 years ago. The architects were incredibly intelligent, but they were not wise. They saw the universe as a puzzle to be solved, a system to be optimized. They began correcting other species, eliminating what they considered evolutionary flaws, perfecting life forms according to their standards. Eventually, an alliance of smaller species united against them. Not because they were stronger, but because they were wiser. They understood that diversity was strength, that imperfection was beauty, that mystery was sacred, and humanity, according to Vorn, had demonstrated the same dangerous traits as the architects: arrogance, destructiveness masked as progress. The belief that intelligence conferred the right to reshape the universe. The Zephyrian crystal that Kael held contained more than data about the machines. It contained the last thoughts of an entire civilization, including a message for any species intelligent enough to find it. When Kael touched the crystal with his bare skin, his eyes widened. For 15 long seconds, he remained motionless. When he finally moved, there were tears floating inside his helmet. Maya also touched the crystal. The information hit her like a wave, not words or images, but pure understanding. She saw the galaxy's history through Zephyrian eyes, civilizations rising and falling, behavioral patterns repeating across millions of years, and the silent machines, fulfilling their unchanging purpose. But she also saw an offer, a chance for humanity to transcend its limitations, join a galactic community of enlightened species, contribute to something greater than the sum of its parts. The price was their identity, as they knew it. Vorn believed it was time to stop fighting the inevitable and accept the transformation offered by the machines. But Maya saw a third option: to divide. Some humans could choose transcendence, others could remain as they were, and perhaps some could find a middle path. 30 minutes of oxygen remaining when the silent machines arrived. First, it was just a distortion in space, like heated air shimmering over hot asphalt. Then gradually a form materialized. Not a ship or a being, but something made of pure geometry, impossible angles folding through dimensions that the human mind couldn't fully process. The machine communicated directly with their minds, without using the communicators. Its presence was questioning, as if it were gently examining them. And then came the first shocking revelation. Vorn was wrong about the machines. They were not exterminators. They were examiners. Humanity had been tested for 1,000 years. Every encounter with an alien species, every archaeological discovery, every decoded message, everything had been carefully orchestrated to measure their response. And humanity was passing the test. Where other species saw competition, humans often saw opportunities for learning. Where others saw resources to exploit, they sometimes saw cultures to preserve. The extinct civilizations they had encountered? Many had chosen extinction when confronted with necessary change. Others had transcended in ways that humans couldn't yet detect. The Zephyrians awaited their decision in an adjacent dimension, along with dozens of other species that had passed the test. This was the final test, not of intelligence, but of wisdom. Intelligence was the ability to solve problems. Wisdom was knowing which problems were worth solving. The problem they needed to solve was how to remain true to their nature while evolving beyond their limitations. It seemed impossible, a contradiction, but the machine explained that it only seemed that way if they thought in binary terms. Humanity had a unique talent for synthesis, for finding third options where others saw only two. Maya's proposal had not been cowardice or indecision. It had been genuine wisdom. Her response demonstrated that at least some humans understood the difference between conquering and cooperating, between imposing and inspiring. This was enough for the species to be invited to join the galactic community, not as subjects but as equal partners. Each of the three made their final choice. Kael chose transcendence, becoming an ambassador between worlds, translating experiences that his current form could not comprehend. His body began to glow, becoming translucent, then transparent, then simply more than it had been. Vorn chose to learn, to study the other species and understand how they had found their paths, but doing so while still being human. He would become a scholar of the community, his research helping other young species navigate their own tests. Maya chose to return to Earth, to explain to humans what they had learned, to help them understand that evolution didn't mean losing who they were, but discovering who they could become. She would be a bridge between what the species had been and what it could become, and those who chose not to evolve, who preferred to remain exactly as they were. They too would have their place. Diversity was strength. There would be room for everyone in the community, the transcendent, the traditionalists, and all points in between. 6 months later, Maya was floating in space again, but this time in a very different station. The new Prometheus orbited Earth like a city of crystal and metal, its corridors echoing with voices in a dozen languages, some human, others definitely not. Earth's reaction had been complex. Some humans immediately embraced the opportunity for transcendence. Others retreated to isolated colonies, determined to preserve pure humanity. Most chose something in between, gradual evolution, change by their own choice. Kael sometimes visited her, or at least, something that had been Kael. It was hard to explain. He was more than he had been, but still recognizably himself. Vorn had established himself in the community's library on Vega Prime, lost in academic ecstasy studying 10,000 years of alien philosophy. During one of these visits, Kael revealed something the machines had told him. Humanity had not been the first species to choose the third option, but it had been the first to do so without it being suggested to them. Now they learned, they taught, they grew, and from time to time, they helped other young species find their own third options. Maya reached a final understanding about the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence was knowing they could choose. Wisdom was knowing that the choice never ended. Down on Earth, a 12-year-old boy in Sao Paulo looked at the stars and wondered if there was anyone out there. In a mining colony on Titan, a woman decided whether she should accept an invitation to study with the ethereals of Vega Prime. In a small town in the American Midwest, an elderly man told his grandchildren about the time when humanity thought it was alone in the universe. And in all these moments, in all these small and large choices, humanity continued proving it had passed the test, not because it had chosen right once, but because it kept choosing, day after day, moment after moment. Wisdom was not a destination. It was a journey. 10 years after the events at Prometheus VII Station, before her own choice of transcendence, Maya Chen recorded her last words as a human. The difference between intelligence and wisdom is not in what we know, but in what we do with what we know, and in the humility to recognize all that we still don't know. Humanity's story had only just begun.